everyone, Daisy here with another layout for Confessions of a Paper Addict and also for 12 Days of Christmas, the song edition. And so I'm showing you kind of how I create the backgrounds when I'm cutting a cut file and I want to back it as well without having to cut around each piece. So what I do is, you just saw me tracing my cut file and now I duplicated it, and then I released the compound path of the lower of the two cut files. And now what I'm going to do is go through and delete all of the kind of outline or inside letter pieces. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. So I'm selecting like the inner part of the U, the inner part of the S. You need to be careful not to remove the little pieces that are in between the words, because that will make it too hard. You won't be able to read it if you remove the wrong piece. And also when you're doing these letters, you want to be sure to delete the outer ring of the, like the circle inside the O. And not the inner one. You want to leave the smaller one because that'll give you a lip to glue that inside ring to, if that makes sense. And then you see it matches up perfectly there. And then I am just going to send that off to my silhouette. And I cut it on some of this pearlescent cardstock along with the layered snowflakes cut file. And then I'm just using the offcut of the snowflakes and some shimmers, spray, and gray flannel. And I'm just lightly spritzing it around, kind of giving the hint of a snowflake background without it being too much. Now the photos that I'm going to be documenting today are of from last year. My son, who had just gotten his license, like not too long before this happened, was driving to school in the first snowstorm of the year, and this poor woman slid through a stop sign right at him, and he did his best to swerve out of the way, but there just wasn't any way to get out of the way in time, and she ended up hitting him in the front bumper, and then broke the wheel, the hubcap on his wheel. And the woman, well, Aiden called me right away, and I talked to the woman who was there, and she said he did the best he could to get out of the way, and she felt so horrible that this happened. And the police couldn't come because it was a snow emergency, because it was the first snow of the year. So, you know, everybody drives like they're crazy. And so I just have these two pictures and that were taken right away that day. And I was just so proud of the way he handled himself. The woman said he was super responsible and willing to stay there until, you know, police came or whatever. And they actually filled out an online police report together before he left. And yeah, so she was just very impressed with, you know, how he handled himself, and I was really proud of him for that. So anyhow, I'm using that Up to Snow Good cut file as well as the layered snowflakes cut file, and I just felt like that was the perfect thing for this. And then White Christmas is the song for today, and so I'm using a lot of white and light colors. And you know, this is one of the things where everybody dreams of a white Christmas. Well, try driving in it. Yeah. He actually ended up on the curb 3 more times, one so bad that we had to go pull him out. Nobody would stop and help him, and he didn't know what to do because, you know, you don't learn that stuff until it happens to you. So yeah, he's just been a trooper, and now he's been in all of the accidents and, you know, knows how to handle himself. So I'm going to cut down this background, or this paper here, and I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch off of each side, or 1 inch, so that there can be a 1/2 inch border around the whole outside. And I'm going to do a little bit off of each side just so that it doesn't look like one side was cut off whereas the other one wasn't, so that the snowflake kind of motif goes all the way out to the edges of all of the papers. I hope that makes sense. And I'm just using this from a Michael's Hot Buy collection, and then I am going to also back it with some more white paper because the gesso that I used some clear gesso, and unfortunately for me, I don't know if it's just I got a bad batch or what, but clear gesso always makes my paper look like off-white. So I wanted a crisp white border around that. Unfortunately, when I add this border, it ends up being crooked, which really bugs me, but not enough to change it, so I just kind of let it go. But I'm using this adhesive that I got from Spiegel Mom Scraps, and it's like a double-sided tape. I'm pulling it off because I apparently ran out of ATG tape, so I'm going to be using this until I get some more. And then just sticking this down, and of course the background is still a little wet, so I'm getting like sprinkles all over my hands. I did, while I was telling you this story, I did add some sprinkles of some different color blues, some of the gray, and I think maybe like a turquoise or something too. So now I'm just going to adhere this to this pattern paper. I do love how the white like outline looks around that. It makes it look a little cleaner. Well, I think anyway. So originally I had intended to do this horizontal kind of layout, but then I don't know what made me change my mind, but I changed it to a vertical. But I'm going to back all of this with some foam, and I'll come back when that's done. Okay, so through the magic of YouTube, it's all finished. I already peeled all the backing off of, so you don't have to watch me do that. This adhesive is amazing. It's the foam tape, also from Spiegel Mom Scraps. It's very thin, so it's great for like these kind of cut files and everything. I just hate pulling all the backing off of it, but it is definitely a high quality tape, so I do recommend it if you're looking for something. That's also from Spiegel Mom Scraps. So the Up to Snow Good, I have this background piece that I had created that you saw me in the beginning doing, and then I cut the outline of it as well out of this parchment paper. It's a little bit thicker than vellum, and this one is actually really thick. It's like 80-pound parchment paper, so it's a little bit see-through, but not quite as much as vellum. But it's a really, really strong cardstock, like cardstock weight. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But I wanted something to, like, I wanted the outline, but I didn't want it to be like too bright or too bold or dramatically different. So that's why I went with this paper. And it's just taking me a little bit of time because I didn't check the overcut option. I think that's what it's called, where it like will cut into your corners a little bit more so that they pop out easier. So it was just a little bit of a struggle to get it out, but then it turns out fine. So I'm just going to adhere this down with some liquid adhesive. And then I also have placed the snowflake, the first layer of the snowflake. So there is also I'm going to call it the fancy layer. So the layer that I cut out of the blue is like the normal snowflake layer, and then there's a fancy layer that I am going to be layering on top. And I cut that as well out of this parchment paper. And I love how that, like, it gives it an outline, but it doesn't take away from it, and it doesn't make it like too crazy. But you can definitely see the outline there. So then I decided to use that paper, that pattern paper, to back my photos as well. And just using more of the tape and then sticking it down, trying to get it as straight as possible. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't get anything straight, but it's fine. I just cut around it and make it straight. And I didn't really mean for this to be a monochromatic layout. And actually, when I had originally planned this out, I was also going to do like some stitched snowflakes on it, which is another cut file available from COAPA cut files on Etsy, link down below. There's this beautiful stitched snowflake that came out a couple of days ago. I can't remember now if it was the 3rd, I think maybe. And so I was going to do that, but I just was running out of time with the mixed media, letting everything dry, and then, you know, to poke holes in it and all this other stuff. I just didn't have time to do everything. So I do have that started for another layout for this month. So stay tuned for that. But I feel like this turns out well enough. So then I pulled out some stamps, and these are from crepe paper. Is it like Merry Days or no, I'm sorry, these are Pink Paisley Together for Christmas. Oh, I have that way wrong. And so they just have some fancy lacy snowflakes. So I'm using the Aquatini Catherine Pooler ink, and then also some Twilight, which is a gray color Catherine Pooler ink, and I'm just stamping them around, and I'm using quite a few of the different snowflakes just to add to that background. I really love how that background turned out. Like, I didn't think it was going to work out. It looked super messy to me, and I was not happy with it, but I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep going and see what it turns out to be. So, and actually, this does not take a lot of, I mean, there's mixed media and there's the stamping, but I don't really add anything else besides the cut files. Like, that's all I needed. So if you think about it, based on, like, if you don't have a large stash or you don't have a lot of embellishments, these are super simple ways to make your own embellishments using a couple of cut files, like two cut files, and then some stamps and, you know, mists and whatever. It didn't even need the stamps. I could have left them off and just gone with the background. So now I'm adding some silver thread behind where each one of the snowflakes is going to go, just for fun. It didn't really need it, and you can't really see it on the video. Well, maybe you can. But in real life, it makes a difference. So now I'm just adhering the fancy snowflakes on top of the regular snowflakes, and then sticking everything down. And I think I finally moved my camera. My camera has been like tilted up forever, and I don't know what happened. Actually, now I do. Now that I'm looking at it, I've figured out what has been wrong. So I have, if you watched my Clean With Me video from beginning of November, October, something like that, I created this stand for my camera to be attached to, like, all the time out of some PVC pipe, and it looks like it shifted forward about 3-4 inches. So I had been struggling, like, I couldn't figure out why I had to, like, create everything at the top of my desk, and that would be why. It's a good 3-4 inch difference. So good to see, good to see. Just gonna pull that back now while I noticed it. There. So yeah, so I adhered down all of those snowflakes. I did cut one of them in half so that I could put half behind the photo, half at the top. And then I'm just adding some sequins here, again, just for like a little subtle detail. It wasn't really necessary, but I think it looks cute. And I'm adding some around the snowflake in the center. And that is pretty much going to be my layout. So I will have links down below to the Confessions of a Paper Addict shop, which is on Etsy, as well as the Facebook group. There are five free cut files that are available through the month of December only, that you can go download now if you join the group. You are asked a couple of questions. I think one of them is like, what is your craft? And I think maybe there's one other question that I can't think of off the top of my head. You do have to answer those questions in order to be approved into the group. But Virginia has some amazing cut files. She usually has a free cut file every month, And there's a challenge going on too, so definitely want to check that out. And then don't forget to head on over to Christy's channel and see what she created for White Christmas. It is amazing, so you definitely want to check that out. I'm just adding a little bit of journaling about, you know, how white Christmases are great, but not always for the driving. And then that's going to be the end of my layout. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again next time. Bye!